You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Jordan Harms.
We are at the LCMS Convention, the 68th convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and had the opportunity to sit down with friends here at the convention and record some stories to share with you. And we are excited to get to talk with Eden Keefe, new president of LWML, in just a moment. Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting the Coffee Hour. Find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
Which is like right up the road from where we're sitting right now.
Yes.
Not too far, just a few minutes away.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Joining us today at the KFUO booth is Eden Keefe, new LWML president. Also is the host of LWML On The Go podcast. Eden, welcome to the Coffee Hour.
Well, thank you for having me.
We've been working together for 2 years now, I think, on the LWML podcast. Mm-hmm. And Jordan has been...
Just over a year, I guess, now? Already, wow. Yeah. That was one of the first responsibilities I had when I came on board KFUO was there's this podcast for LWML, and you're just, the Lutheran women are just going to send you some files and just do whatever. And I was like, okay. And then... I started getting emails from Eden Keefe all the time.
That usually say, Jordan, I messed up.
Or, Jordan, a helicopter just flew over my house, and you might hear it in the recording. Can you fix it, please?
Please fix it.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about the podcast a little bit and the work that you've done with that, but let's go back a little bit further. When did you first get involved with LWML?
Oh, as a young girl, my mom and grandmas were involved in, at that time, Ladies Aid and LWML. And, Mom just kind of voluntold my sister and I when things would come up like, we need a poster for this. And it wasn't probably until I got married and we were moved up to the Kansas City area, and somebody else from my hometown moved up there, and I was kind of like, well, I'll join LWML if you join LWML with me. And so we got started. Yeah, we started in a circle together up at Bethany Lutheran. And that's when it sort of became mine, right? Started in a group, in a congregation, and then kind of every time you expand out, it gets richer and fuller, I think, and you get mentored by amazing women and pastors, in all honesty. And our hubbies become very supportive of us and allow us to serve in that way. So kind of worked up through the ranks and worked in the district and on national committees, and then as a national officer, now president.
Crazy.
It is just a little bit.
So when you first joined LWML, what is like a day-to-day? How often do you meet? What kind of stuff do you ladies do?
On a group level?
Yes, on the group. Just like, say you just joined.
Okay. In our every congregation is different.
Sure.
That being said, we normally meet on a monthly basis when we get together, and then things happen throughout the month, whether it's a mission service project or a Bible study, which might meet weekly, depending on how you do that. But usually our time to kind of fellowship together and do things is about monthly.
Fantastic. And how long has the LWML been around?
1942 is when we chartered. So.
Right.
Just a little while.
Yeah.
Just a minute.
So we've been at this for a bit.
Yeah.
In the church.
When did you first... What led to you serving as the host of the LWML On The Go podcast? You had some experience before hosting the podcast, right?
Well, just a little bit. In college, I was on a college radio station. But then I kind of went, well, can I be the PSA director? Because I didn't think that was really my thing. But my degree is in speech, drama, and mass communications.
Okay.
And so there was just always like, well, maybe someday I could kind of use that. And when the opportunity came, I said, I'd like to give it a try.
And you stepped in, and we got you set up with a microphone and a little studio at home so you could record, and now sharing these.
Showed me the hows.
For listeners not familiar with the LWML podcast, the On The Go podcast, tell us a little bit about what they would find listening to the LWML On The Go.
This one is it's really a devotional podcast. We use LWML program, what we call program resources. It could be devotions. I don't know if we've ever done really a short Bible study. We've done some, I love to tell the stories, which are actually kind of personal stories from the gospel outreach side. And we just share that, and then they know that they can find more on the LWML website. But it's really a devotional time.
And so they can find it on the LWML website and other places you can get podcasts, I presume?
Yeah, you can find it on the LWML app or your favorite
podcast app.
broadcast app.
Now, Jordan, you've been helping edit the LWML On The Go podcast. What have you been learning listening to the LWML On The Go podcast over the last, year?
Well, first and foremost, that Eden is a very humble host. She, no matter what, she takes everything I say with a grain of salt. If I'm like, oh, I had to edit this, and I put a little bit of compression on the audio here, and hope you don't mind. And the first thing out of her proverbial mouth, so in email form, is, oh, I can do it again. I can record this. I'm so sorry. And I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. It's honestly a joy to edit because, it is very digestible as a podcast. It's typically pretty short. Even the quote-unquote longer ones are like, maybe 10 minutes?
Maybe.
Yeah. And you cover a wide variety of topics. And I'm not a Lutheran woman, but I end up listening to most of every episode, and I can usually glean something from it. I know my wife likes to listen to it as well. So it's almost like a small little break from the rest of my work. It is still, I have to do what I have to do to make it ready to go on the air, or online, I suppose. But first and foremost, I'd say that Eden does a tremendous job. And then I always find so much support from all the Lutheran women in the email chains. And we started this silly little trend that we might annoy everyone else with. I can't tell if they're on board or not, but we usually work in some sort of pun-related humor into almost every single email, playing off of the title. And I just started doing that on a whim, and then Eden picked it right up with even just sending me the files. So, I mean, I'm trying to think of some examples, but there's too many.
I think it started with fall. I think I asked a question when I sent a recording about when does fall start? When the date is, or when the weather gets cooler?
Yes,
and that's
the age-old question.
Started
and it just
a little conversation.
As opposed to just kind of brushing it off, I gave like a paragraph answer to the entire group. I didn't just send it to Ian. I forwarded it to everyone so that everyone could see my position on the matter, and it just took off from there. So, So it was like a little bit like meeting a celebrity when I only met you in person just a few days ago.
I know.
Which feels longer already, but yeah. So it's been a joy. Yeah, it's a good podcast. And not just because I edit it. The content is good.
I have a family at church that they use it for their weekly devotion time. On Wednesdays. They use it for that devotion time. So that's kind of cool.
Oh, that's right. It releases once a week, right?
On Wednesdays.
On Wednesdays. So that's good to know as well for listeners.
Probably should have mentioned
check it out.
Yeah,
that's important. That's important. So LWML Convention met in June, so about a month ago. What were some significant things that happened at the convention in June, in addition to a new president now for LWML, but so many other things?
Really, that's, not the focus at all of convention. Dynamic, wonderful worship, divine service, singing, Bible study, Kay Wolf leading our Bible study, and Dr. Greg Seltz as the keynote speaker. And then I think the women love to come and see and hear the missionaries that come in off the field and say, this is how your mite offerings have impacted us in the field or in our ministry. And whether it's out in the field, internationally or at home, we just get a little bit of a glimpse on how God uses his people and those faithful to mite offerings. So that's probably the highlight.
I bet.
In convention, the delegates at the LWML convention, delegates voting on various mission projects as well, right? And supporting
we selected 31 to support over the next 2 years, and over $2,350,000 worth in grants that women will be faithfully asked to fund in 2 years.
Fantastic.
And some service projects and all kinds of things happening at LWML Convention. And there happened to be some entertainment as well at the LWML Convention in June.
How fun was that? Oh, my goodness. We had Lutheran Ladies Lounge. We're in the house. And that was so much fun. And we even had the pink couch in the exhibit hall. So, that was really great. I think for both them and us, right, to kind of make that connect. It was great.
So I had the privilege of witnessing the Lutheran Ladies Lounge live event.
I'm a little jealous.
And at which, near the end, about 2/3 of the way through the program, there was quite a bit of audience participation in the Lutheran Ladies Lounge live event. And Eden, you got to participate in a game. Is that right?
Yeah.
That was
Family Feud.
It was like Family
I like
Feud.
similar,
Yes. Lutheran Lady Feud, I think, or something like that. And your team had to compete against another team. There were various leaders from LWML competing, and there were some challenging questions all across the board.
Things you learn.
Things
you learned about what soups are come up at the soup suppers. We did not come up with the chicken and wild rice was the stumper of that question. I think.
Yeah.
So in addition to all that work, they also had some fun too at the LWML convention. Lots of learning and lots of great things happening. And in just a minute, we're going to talk more about some of the things that LWML has celebrated, some anniversaries, and then also what to look forward to in the coming year as well. We are at the LWML we're at the LCMS convention. We were at the LWML convention. Now we're at the LCMS convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You're listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Jordan Harms.
At Concordia University, Wisconsin, we believe you were created for a reason: to use your God-given gifts to help others, to live a life of self-sacrifice in a me-first world, to live a life that's uncommon. Whether you're taking one of 50-plus online programs or learning with us in person on the shores of Lake Michigan, you'll be equipped to make an uncommon impact. Learn more at cuw.edu. Concordia University, Wisconsin. Live uncommon.
Welcome back to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Jordan Harms.
We are at the LCMS convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and today we are talking with Eden Keefe, president of LWML, and we were just catching up on some of the things, kind of a recap of the recent LWML convention that took place just a month before the LCMS convention.
Right here in the Milwaukee. Same place. Yeah. Same building.
And so we got a recap of that convention. What are some significant things, some significant anniversaries and things that LWML has had the opportunity to recognize recently?
Well, at convention, we had the opportunity to celebrate 50 years of our Young Women Representative Program. You know, there was a lot of foresight, I think, in how do we engage the younger women into Lutheran Women in Mission, and to be able to celebrate 50 years of very intentional programming, at least on the national level, which then has come down into the district level and impacted even our groups. That is exciting. We also had the 20th anniversary of our Heart to Heart Sisters of All Nations program. It started out just being called Heart to Heart, but basically, again, a very intentional effort to gather in and support women of all ethnicities and ages and that kind of thing. So that was pretty exciting to be able to celebrate 20 years of that program happening, and looking forward to many more.
Excellent. So what's next for LWML? Now that, what is it? You got 80 years under your belt?
Yeah, we celebrated 80 years actually in 2022.
Yeah, okay. That makes, because 1942, right?
So in kind of leading up to that and looking toward that 80th anniversary, we took a step back and looked back at what the foundation of LWML, and you know, where do we go now forward, and thought, gosh, we are just so true. I mean, the mission just speaks to where we were then, and it speaks to where we are now, and I think it speaks to the future, because we articulate it differently in our mission statement now. It's, as Lutheran Women in Mission, we joyfully proclaim Christ, support missions, and equip women to honor God by serving others. So you just have that Christ-centered gospel focus. You have, you know, where we support missions, missionaries, mission partners, our church workers, and then you have that whole mission service arm. We thought that's it. I mean, we continue with that foundation. So we know who we are, we know whose we are, we know what we're about. And as we look forward now, we may just be looking at opportunities to be more flexible and creative in how we engage the women of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod as Lutheran Women in Mission.
So let's go slightly more philosophical and personal to you. What does LWML mean to President Eden Keefe? someone who joined very early on, because I'm inspired by the LWML and the mentorship that older women can have on younger women, because I think that's often something that I see lacking in many other aspects of life. Strong female leads and strong female role models for young women. And now you've gone from one end of that, and now you're in the mentorship role. So what does that mean to you? How does that feel?
Well, and I'll divert a little bit.
Sure.
I think leader development is an important thing and an opportunity. We take advantage of training and resourcing women from, districts up through national, and I love that. The things that I've just gained personally have been invaluable, and it's been through LWML because that's that's what we do. We do develop our leaders, and I love that. Mentorship, definitely right on there. And it doesn't have to be just older to younger, because you had the opportunity to hear at least my daughter's voice.
Yes.
But we have some very spiritually mature, very dedicated women with expertise.
Peers.
Yes,
Level,
absolutely.
yeah.
Peers and younger. And in our networking, we just make each other stronger. We are better together. And that support and encouragement, I think, that we find in our organization is key. And I do love that, because every time you get involved a little bit more, that ripple effect, it just builds and builds and builds.
Right.
We've talked about mentorship and celebrating the anniversary of the Young Women's Representative program. What do young women representatives do in the LWML? I know they serve in a variety of ways.
Right. Well, sometimes, whether it's on a district level or at the national convention, that might be their first look at what LWML looks like beyond their congregation and what they've seen in their group. And it allows them to network with other women their age, maybe, from different congregations, but again, kind of support and encourage one another. And then it gives them opportunity to start maybe serving in their districts on a committee. And boy, we have just been really blessed by that, I know, in our district, having our young women involved in that way. And then we see them often serving on a national committee and chairman, and we go from there. In the Kansas district, our current president was a young woman rep.
Oh, wow.
So,
wow.
see,
So you build that foundation, and then, like you said, it just kind of, you start seeing a trend from there, upward trend from there as you gain those skills.
Yeah.
We just finished the LWML convention. So in this next biennium, is that the right word?
Yes,
Biennium,
that is.
leading up to the next convention, what all needs to happen in the next 2 years leading up to the next convention, which takes place in Omaha, right?
And
Omaha
is 2 years enough time? No, I'm kidding.
Well, there's a lot of change. We do have a lot of change. It's a challenge and an opportunity. Kind of the rhythm, I guess I would say, of that 2 years is we'll be kind of coming together. We'll be filling our committees on a national level. Now we'll be filling our committees. They'll kind of plan their work toward what's going to happen between now and when we meet in Omaha. We'll be doing, then after we fill those committees, then we will be providing leadership training and a time to do that planning. Our district presidents come in and again have time for training, and networking is so important because there are lots of great things that are happening within our districts and within our groups on the congregational level that we need to be sharing about. So that communication that kind of allows for some of that. And then we kind of work the plan, right? We plan our work and work our plan. And then we come back together again and touch base and sort of plan toward convention. And that's sort of the cycle. Yeah. So that's when you see things that might be happening, like new Bible studies come out and new resources and
more podcast episodes.
And more podcast episodes.
Yes. Which we didn't even mention. You just had your 200th episode a few episodes ago. So congratulations. That's great.
And so that's when you got to meet my daughter Ashley.
Yes.
Hear her voice.
And you two gave me a shout out. So I want to thank you on air now for that as well. That you said I came to the rescue, which is way talking up what I actually do for this podcast. But very honored that you would recognize that. So, how are we on time? We're going to have to wrap up here.
We
right?
have about 5 minutes
About
left.
5 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, I wanted to ask you, what would be, I know I keep going to the more of the philosophical side of things, but what would you like to say to a young woman listening, or any woman of any age and any walk in their faith? What's a good message from the LWML to someone who's maybe considering joining or attending or getting involved? What does President Keefe have to say?
She just wants to say, just do it. But
Yeah. But why?
well, because you will be valued. Your service, your time, what you have to offer is valued, I think, by Lutheran Women in Mission. And I think that we do collaborate well. So, you kind of talked about, well, thanks for the shout out. But we are about that. We're about nurturing relationships. We're about nurturing and encouraging one another, and joining together, we can make such an impact for the church and God's kingdom, whether it's, financially by supporting mission grants, whether it's just those service projects that we can come together and do to support something local in our community or something global, but and just being in the Word, right? Mm-hmm. Really, making that a priority, your faith. I think that you will just find that being involved, you can find ways that fit your schedule. And sometimes that's hard on a local group, like if the group only meets in the evenings and you don't like to drive after dark, or they only meet during the day and you are working. So there are some challenges there, right. And we address that. What are some ways that we can be involved if we can't physically be at your quote unquote meeting? And there are ways. So
you mentioned relationships as being a key part of what happens in being a part of LWML. What are some of the relationships that you've gained through your involvement with LWML?
Well, the one that just recently came kind of to the forefront is when Shar and I, both on the ballot as for president, began meeting together via phone and stuff about 6 months out. And we prayed together about, what does God have in mind for us, each of us? What does God have in mind for us together? What does God have in mind for the LWML?
Fun, but
right?
sometimes stressful questions to ask.
And just kind of collaborating as we worked toward convention and things that needed to be put into place. And I wish it wasn't maybe quite as unique as it is in the church that would happen. Mm-hmm. But we felt that it made our experience so much more blessed as we prepared for whatever God had in mind. And then you go to convention and then you meet your mentors. And I've had some amazing mentors, especially in the national presidents and in my local district, and that continue to uplift and support and encourage. So,
Great.
What do you hope to get to do while you're here at the LCMS convention? You mentioned that you have a booth here, and you also will be giving greetings from the podium as well. What are some other things, or what are you looking forward to in your time here?
I'm living the dream right now, being able to sit down with you guys and talk a little bit about LWML, and that's exciting to me. Probably it's more sort of making the connections in the exhibit hall, like I said, with mission partners and folks, and
all the people that you talk to on email all the time, getting to see face to face, right?
I get to see meet them in person. Yes. It's exciting.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your service and for your service in LWML and for spending some time with us. Thanks for your great podcast as well. Again, where can they find LWML on the Go podcast?
You can find it on the LWML app or whatever broadcast service you use for your podcast.
Our guest today, Eden Keefe, president of LWML. Thanks for being our guest on the Coffee Hour.
Thanks for letting the Lutheran Women in Mission be a part of yours.
Anytime.
You've been listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Jordan Hart.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@kfuo.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.